Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Handmade by Ying with Donna. Today I'm working on my Legit Kit month 4, week 16. And I'm telling you, this is flying along. This month we're going to have to be joining a couple sections, so let's get sewing. So as you can see by the assembly guide, we're going to be making this piece, and I'm going to highlight this one so that you'll see. You're just going to have this little snippet here that we're going to be joining in. So that's going to be fun. I like it when we get to join some pieces together. So let me move my assembly guide out of the way. So what I like to do is go ahead and pre-cut all of this off because I'm not going to need it. Then I'm going to take this little tiny one, and as you can see, it's got multiple colors. So now the fun is going to start coming together. So you're just going to trim it out. Just a rough trim. You don't want to have to be real close to that line because that's going to be your trim line. So anytime I have a small piece, I like to go ahead and just start with that and get it out of the way. And we'll start with number 1, and we're going to work our way through. We'll do the lower half, then the upper half, and then we'll do our little pieces. I'll just do it that way to keep it really easy. The first color that we're going to be doing is saffron. So that is your AF. You want to make sure that your chart and everything is matching up for what you need. So down here I have section D right here. So I'm going to mark that off, and this is where I need this piece to fit in. So I'll pull my tab and pin it to myself, and I'll wiggle this in. And I'll just come up here to my 1/4 of an inch. And you'll pin it in place. I always pin my first piece, sometimes the other ones as well. It all depends on how big a section you're working with. So I'll slide it around to this edge. I'll fold it in, add a 1/4 ruler, make sure it butts up nice and tight, and move it out of the way. I'll put my tag back on, and then I'll refold these and file them back in their folder. You never know when you'll need that little tidbits. So I've got this piece. I'll trim this off in the end. My next color is AU, and that's a gold color. So as you can see, it's a nice size piece. So let's get the cutting guide out. And I can see that on this, I'm going to need to cut twice. So I'll cut for my extra piece that I'll be putting in as well. So D4A and the B, I'm going to cut at the same time. So I'll slide my cutting guide out of the way. We're going to lay this down, and we're going to put this piece in. And I'm going to line up exactly where I want it. And I'm just going to take it like this. I've allowed myself my 1/4 of an inch down here. So I'm just going to fold it over so it's out of my way. Fold this back, lay my add a 1/4 ruler down, and we're going to trim it out. Pull it aside. And I've got this piece now ready to go. We'll slide it in. I'm going to move this out of the way because as soon as I sew this piece in, I'll cut that next section. So I know I'm in. I'm going to do my fold back to make sure that I'm covered, and I am. It's better to check twice than to have a nice date with Jack. Sew it in place. Make sure that you're on your lines. And sew straight off. You're going to trim your threads. And we're going to press it out. I'm going to finger press it and apply the heat. When I iron away from the seam line. It just gives it a really nice, tight finish. So I'll take this piece right here. I know that's where I'm going to be adding that other section. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. And I'll set this aside for just a minute so that I can take this color. I know I'm going to need it again. And it's going to go right here, the AU Gold. So it looks like this piece here that I just trimmed off is going to fit in there. So I don't mix my colors up. I'm just going to pin this in place right here because I know it's already cut. So that's out of the way now. So I'll put this piece away and we'll move on to the next color. My next color is going to be QM. And it looks like that is marmalade. So they give you a pretty hefty section. D4A on my cutting guide, piece 3. So as you can see, I'm only going to need this color one time. Don't really focus on your numbers here. Make sure that you've got the right number on the side for the right project. So I'll slide this tag off, slip it on my hand for just a little minute. I'm not even going to trim it. I'm just going to come down in and make sure that I have exactly what I need. Let me cut this piece out. I have that little overage. We'll get that out of the way. And we'll slide this one in. You can choose to make the one cuts and then recut again to get this in. But to me, efficient, I'll just sew it in and then trim it off. And then we'll file this back in its little system. I sewed off the edge on this. The directions show you sew off the edge. So what I'm going to do now is pop this up, finger press it in. We will trim this out here in just a second and file this color back away. So as you can see, it makes more sense right here for me to do it just like this. It's a one cut and get the piece in. I'll put my tag back on it and file it. So I know I'm going to need to trim this little piece off before I marry these together. So we'll just get rid of it now. So now I'm moving up to the TC. I'm going to make sure that I'm good here, and I am. TC is the next color, and that's the butterscotch. We'll pull out our cutting guide. Make sure that you have D4A, and I do. This is the block 4, and this is the section that I'll be using. So when you're seeing the numbers here, it means you're just going to have 2 different colors. There's no rhyme or reason to that numbering. So we'll pull this out. I'm going to pull my tag, slip it on my hand, and slide this in. I know that this is more than enough for this little piece that I've got to sew in. So we're just going to sew it in. Snip your threads. Now would be a good time to go ahead and pull your pins because you're not going to need them now. We'll flip it over and finger press it back. Heat up your seam and push it away from your sewing line. You're not stretching it, you're just pressing it in. Really nice. Now, as you can see, I have my label still, so I'm just going to take it off and stick it there. So I'll trim this out, and that just made for a real quick sew-in for this little section. So TC is being filed back in its little folder, and we're going to look for SX. That's the next color, and that is Sunny. So we're going to pull our cut guide. We have this big Sunny color, so I'll take the tag off and tag myself. This will be the last time we're using this color. So I'm looking for D4A, and right here it is, and we've got it all marked off. So you can lay this in just like this. I know I have this little piece here that will bug me being in my way, so I'll just slide it out. Slide it over and just sew it straight in. Here I did sew into the edges here because the lines point to do that. So now I'm just going to finger press it, heat up my seam, and push it away. When you are totally finished this project, you are going to be mind-blowing at all of the extra fabric that you have left. So keep it in your filing system so that if you choose to move forward with another project, you've already got that file folder set up and ready to sew. So stick the tag back on that one. Come down. That's a significant piece, I feel, so I will keep that as well. Take this little corner off, because you never know when you're just going to need a little snippets. So we've trimmed this side. Now we're going to trim this one, and then we'll be ready to start building that little piece. So does that not look so pretty? And it comes together really nice. So now we're going to build this little section. My first color that I need is TA. So let me go into my system, and it's terracotta. Look how big of a piece they gave me for this wee little snippet. So like I said, you get more than enough fabric. So I'm on D4B, and I only have one cut here. So I'll mark that off the cutting guide. I will move my tag down to the salvage side. And I will just cut out this little tiny piece. And I'll just hold it instead of pinning it, because it's just going to be a rough cut. And that's how much you'll have left over. So I'll put that back in the TA. The next color is going to be RP. So we're going to look for RP. Roasted pecan. And look how much they give you on this as well. Quite a significant amount. So you're still going to check your color, your cutting guide. And that is right there. And this is the little tiny piece that we need. So you can eyeball this. Honestly, it's just going to be a snippet. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Then I'll file this back away. So now I'm just going to hold this in place to where I want it. I'm going to take this piece and lay it right here. And we're going to sew this in. I'm going to take this piece off because we've already got it cut, remember? And we're going to fold this back and just give it a press in. Trim my thread. It'll come off in the seam allowance, but just like to get it out of there. Fold this back. These little pieces are so cute to work with. So now you just need to figure out how you're going to lay this in, because when you put it in, you want to make sure that you move it up. So when you fold it, it's going to come back up over to where you need it to. So if you sewed it just like right here, it's not going to cover. So you're going to need to really watch how you sew this one in. And under the needle we go. Trim your threads, front and back. If they're showing, then you're just going to finger press it up. I'm going to lay it here and give it some heat, love. Now this piece here, when we join it in, I will use my acorn pin just to make sure that it stays nice and tight and flat. So we're going to trim this piece before we do the add-on, and just make sure that you're staying true to your 1/4 of an inch. And repeat over here. Now, is that not a cute little piece? So let me get my scraps out of the way, and we'll join these together. So according to our layout, this is going to come down in this corner. And right now it doesn't look like it's going to fit, but it does. So you're just going to flip it over, and you're going to lay it here like this. You're going to take a pin and stick it through your first piece. And if you've got it lined up, it'll come through the next piece right at the point. So I like to get the first piece in, and then I'll turn this sideways. And then I'll pin this one in place, and I'll do the same on the other end. If I've got it lined up, I should be able to stick the pin straight through right here, and it come out exactly where it needs to here. And as you can see, it does. So I can pop that pin out, move my tools out of the way, make sure everything is pinned, lined up, and we'll get this one in. Pop my pin out because I'm under the presser foot now, and we're going to sew it really slow. You've got a little bit of bulk from those 3 pieces joining together. Here's where you'll cut off these little, I call them dog ears for intents purposes, but it's just your extra little snippets. Then we're going to fold this back, and as you can see, it lines up. So now's the good time to pull this paper out. Get my tweezers. I like to get as much out as I can. And if you don't have tweezers yet, you need to get them. It works amazing for these little pieces. They're out of my way. So I'll take this over, and we're going to gently pull it just a little bit and finger press this in. Once I get it ironed flat, then I'll start with the heats. And then it'll start to lay nice and flat. I've got these pieces here, so I just really like mine to lay snug. So give me just a second. I want to make sure that seam is opened all the way. Give it the heat for just a second. Acorn pin right in. And now it's going to lay there for just a minute. Flip it over, and as you can see, everything lines up fabulous. So thank you guys again for joining me today. It's been a fun month. a lot of good sewing, and I'm looking forward to what awaits us in month 5. So I'll see you back then, and we'll unpackage it and see what we can get done. Take care, God bless, and I'll see you back in the next video.